Why is it so important to address hearing early? It's important because we don't hear with our ears, we hear with our brains. So that's the most important thing to understand initially. We don't hear with our ears, we hear with our brains. So our ears collect sound in very sophisticated ways, but then all of those sounds have to go up the auditory nerve, have to go to the auditory cortex, or in other words, to the brain, where they're processed. And that processing is different depending on if you're in quiet, or if you're with friends, or if you're in a noisy restaurant. And so our brain is where all of that happens. So when you have a hearing loss, or when you're having some hearing trouble or some hearing struggles, the reason you need to address it earlier rather than later is because the longer your brain goes without that sound or is existing without a complete signal, the harder it is for the brain to process that sound. So I often compare it to, imagine you put your arm in a cast and you left it there for years. The average person waits 8 to 10 years from the time they notice a hearing problem to the time they come to see someone like me, an audiologist. So if you put your arm in a cast, let's say for 8 to 10 years, and then you took the cast off, would your arm work? No. You would need physical therapy, you'd have muscle atrophy. People understand that if you don't use your arm, it doesn't work anymore. People don't realize that with hearing, it's very similar. If you don't get those signals to the brain like you need to, your brain isn't going to be able to interpret that sound as well later on down the road. It's a long analogy, but I think that it's absolutely applicable, and it helps people understand, and it makes sense of what we're talking about and why it's so important to address hearing earlier rather than later.